Hello everyone. Let's solve a passage from the 2021 CSAT question paper together. For solving comprehension passages, I always suggest that you read the question first. Question पहले पढ़ने से आपको एक डायरेक्शन मिलता है पैसेज के साथ क्या करना है, ये आपको क्वेश्चन में मिल जाता है. सो द प्रोसेस बिकम्स अ लिटिल ईजियर. तो पहले हम क्वेश्चन पढ़ते हैं. The question says, which of the following statements best reflect the rational, plausible and practical implications that can be derived from the passage above? तो implication पूछा है. Implication का मतलब होता है कि passage में आपका answer directly नहीं दिया है. The passage will be hinting at the answer, implying the answer, but not giving the answer directly, right? It is implicit. That is what implication means. So when we read the passage now, keep that in mind. The passage says, in the immediate future, we will be seeing the increasing commodification of many new technologies, artificial intelligence and robotics, 3D manufacturing, custom-made biological and pharmaceutical products, lethal autonomous weapons and driverless cars. This will pose conundrums. The moral question of how a driverless car will decide between hitting a jaywalker and swerving and damaging the car has often been debated. The answer is both simple, save the human life, and complex. At which angle should the car swerve? Just enough to save the jaywalker or more than enough? If the driverless car is in Dublin, who would take the decision? The Irish government or the car's original code writer in California? Or a software programmer in Hyderabad to whom maintenance is outsourced? If different national jurisdictions have different fine print on prioritizing a human life, how will it affect insurance and investment decisions, including transactional ones? So it's a very important passage, it's a very relevant passage, important in terms of what is going on right now. So what is the passage talking about? In the immediate future, we will see the increasing commodification of many new technologies. So commodification. Commodification is the process by which something becomes a commodity. Commodity is what? जिसको हम खरीद सकते हैं, sell कर सकते हैं. That is commodity. तो यहाँ पे technologies are becoming commodities, right? And the passage is saying in the immediate future, we will see that many new technologies will become commodities, right? Now, then the passage gives you a list of these new technologies. So all of these things, artificial intelligence, robotics, 3D manufacturing, biological and pharmaceutical products, all of these things are examples of the new innovations and technologies that will be coming in the immediate future. Now the passage is saying that this will pose conundrums. Conundrum का मतलब होता है एक बहुत difficult question or problem जिसका हल अभी हमारे पास नहीं है. That is a conundrum. So what is the conundrum that the passage is talking about? A moral question. The passage is talking about a moral question. Moral question of how a driverless car will decide between hitting a jaywalker and swerving and damaging the car has often been debated. So jaywalker is someone who is not following the traffic rules, right? Green light है लेकिन फिर भी road cross कर रहे हैं. That is a jaywalker. They're not following the traffic rules. And so the question is कि if there is a jaywalker and the car does not have a driver, it is a driverless car, then what will happen, right? Now obviously the answer is to save the human life, right? The answer is to save the human life in every single case. But how will a car with no driver decide on these things? How will they decide how much to swerve? Swerving का मतलब होता है to move away, right? Swerving is to move away. So how will the driverless car decide कि कितना हट जाना है, कितना swerve करना है, right? Just enough to save the jaywalker or more than enough? Next, the passage is saying that in this one single piece of technology, 3 different countries are involved. How? The passage says, if the driverless car is in Dublin, who would take the decision? The Irish government or the car's original code writer in California or a software programmer in Hyderabad to whom maintenance is outsourced. Outsourced means on a contractual basis goods and services are hired. So यहाँ पे क्या बोल रहे हैं कि इस एक ड्राइवरलेस कार में 3 nations are involved in some way or the other. गाड़ी कहाँ पे है? आयरलैंड में है, डबलिन में है, राइट? उसका कोड किसने लिखा है? समवन इन कैलिफोर्निया. कैलिफोर्निया में किसी ने, सिलिकॉन वैली में किसी ने कोड लिखा है, लेकिन मेंटेनेंस का रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी किसको दिया गया है? somebody in Hyderabad. So 3 different countries are involved in this one single piece of technology. Now these 3 countries have different laws, right? They have different jurisdictions. Jurisdictions means who has the official power to take legal decisions. That is what jurisdiction means. Now if these 3 different countries have different jurisdiction and different laws, how do we then come at a decision, right? The passage is talking about this. The passage is saying if different national jurisdictions have different fine print on prioritizing a human life, how will it affect insurance and investment decisions, including transactional ones? Prioritizing means to put a human life first. Now, we are not arguing that human life should not be put first. We know that human life should be put first. Human life needs to be prioritized. The question is how? How will human life be prioritized? What is the method, right? That is what the passage is describing. So the passage is talking about a problem, a conundrum that has been posed by these new technologies. Now, one thing that is quite clear from the passage, which has not been explicitly mentioned, is the presence of globalization, right? And also a critique of globalization, because of globalization you have all these problems. So it's important to understand what the passage is doing and what the passage is not doing. So here we have a critique of globalization. A problem is being posed, but at the same time the passage is not suggesting any specific solution, right? It is implying that some solution is required, but it is not telling you what that solution is, right? Now let's look at the options in detail. The first option says too much globalization is not in the best interest of any country. Now, while the passage is critiquing globalization, one thing you have to understand about globalization is the fact that at this point in time, we cannot go back to no globalization. Okay, globalization is causing many new problems. It is causing our society to think about a lot of things in a different way. And because it is causing these conundrums, but at the same time, we cannot go back to countries not being connected. Okay, that is not possible. So option number 1 is not a good option. Okay, so you can just cancel option number 1 at one go. So now that we know option number 1 is wrong, we can cancel every single code with option number 1 in it. So A has option number 1 in it, B has option number 1 in it, and D has option number 1 in it. So that leaves us with option number C, which says 2, 3 and 5 are implications. So let's look at options number 2, 3 and 5 to double check whether these are correct implications. Now option number 2 is saying modern technologies are increasingly blurring economic borders. Blurring means to confuse or to make vague, right? Hindi में जिसको धुंधला कहते हैं, that is blurring. So option number 2 is saying that technologies are making economic borders more vague, right? That is something that the passage is talking about. It's talking about the fact that because so many different countries are involved, so many different economic borders are involved, we don't really know who to go to, right? So the borders are becoming more and more vague. That is something the passage is talking about. So option number 2 is correct. Option number 3 says innovation and capital have impinged on the domain of the state. Impinge means to violate और हिंदी में कम करना. तो कम यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है? डोमेन ऑफ द स्टेट. स्टेट का पावर कम हो रहा है. नाउ क्या होता नॉर्मली अगर एक नॉर्मल गाड़ी होती और द ड्राइवर कॉज्ड एन एक्सीडेंट, then who would take responsibility of punishing the driver? The Irish government, right? The accident has happened in Dublin, so the Irish government would take the responsibility. Now because there is no driver and there are so many different countries involved, the Irish government cannot alone take the decision. राइट? इतने सारे डिफरेंट कंट्रीज यहाँ पे इन्वॉल्व है एक टेक्नोलॉजी के लिए, तो आयरिश गवर्नमेंट अकेला रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी नहीं ले सकता है, इट हैज़ टू कंसल्ट अदर पीपल। तो यहाँ पे आयरिश गवर्नमेंट का जो डोमेन है, जो पावर है, वो कम हो रहा है। किसके लिए कम हो रहा है? बिकॉज ऑफ कमिंग अप ऑफ न्यू टेक्नोलॉजीज, राइट? सो ऑप्शन नंबर 3 इज ऑल्सो more or less correct. Now option number 5. Geopolitics will have to reconcile to many ambiguities and uncertainties. Reconcile means to come to terms with, समझना, and ambiguities means uncertainties only. तो ऑप्शन नंबर 5 क्या कह रहा है कि अभी का जो पॉलिटिक्स है, जियोपॉलिटिक्स, it will have to come to terms with the fact that there are now many ambiguities. जियो पॉलिटिक्स को और अभी के पॉलिटिक्स को ये समझना पड़ेगा कि अभी नए टेक्नोलॉजी के वजह से बहुत सारे नए प्रश्न आ रहे हैं, नए प्रॉब्लम्स आ रहे हैं, एंड वी हैव टू डील विद दोज अनसर्टनिटीज। ओके, सो ऑप्शन नंबर 5 इज ऑल्सो अ गुड इम्प्लीकेशन। तो ऑप्शन नंबर सी इज योर करेक्ट आंसर।